I prefer cycling everywhere instead of driving, and so I've set my bike up accordingly. People come up to me and ask me about it, and so I'll make this video to show it off. I don't cycle professionally, and I just treat cycling as a cheap way to get around, while also being good exercise for me. My bike is ugly and heavy, but I don't really care, as long as it works and it's practical for me. With fuel prices on the rise, the simplistic and functional way that I do things may be of interest to people, and so I'll share them here. My main bike is an old rally hybrid, which I've had for 10 years. During that time I've gradually replaced most of the parts on it using spares off the internet, which I felt were good value for money. To help with the hills, I fit an e-bike kit. I've also made some very basic DIY improvements to help it carry more, as well as towing a trailer. So firstly, bolting this cheap plastic box to the pannier rack was a simple way of increasing how much I can carry. For the lid I cut out some thick but flexible plastic sheeting, which I then riveted to the box, and it just simply bends open. I was considering buying an actual pannier box for a motorbike or scooter, but this box is much larger and lighter. It's held onto the rack by 4 large bolts and plywood. I chose pannier bags that open from the side instead of from the top. These fit underneath the box, although I had to make holes in the top bag fabric for the bolts. Thanks to the box, I've got plenty of room to carry stuff from the bike, and so I take a bunch of tools and other essentials with me, which keeps me on the road. This includes a first aid kit, which I've had training for, a pencil case, which I use as a tool bag, containing spanners, tyre levers, a chain tool, quick link chain pliers, spare chain links, electrical tape, and zip ties. I also have 2 multi-tools, one with pliers, the other with an Allen key set. A bungee cord is useful. So is a spare rear light and a box containing batteries for it, as well as spare wheel nuts. If I plan to be out at night, I take a head torch that fits around my helmet, as well as spare rechargeable batteries for it which I swap around when they get low. I also pack the standard pump with spare air tubes, both for the bike and the trailer. I fitted puncture-resistant tyres to my bike though, even though they're much heavier. It's just a lot easier to not have punctures very often. To help with the hills and with towing the trailer, I chose an e-bike kit off the internet which seems to have good reviews. It was much cheaper than the price of a normal e-bike with the equivalent performance. My kit has a 250 watt front hub motor, which I like because it gives the bike 2-wheel drive. It's also better for balance on hills, it means I don't do wheelies. Also, the e-bike electronics are separate from the chain, pedals, hub, etc. this way, which makes the bike easy to clean and lube. I use the bike a lot in winter and it gets dirty. The battery that this kit came with allows me to go up to over 100 miles between charges, although this depends entirely on how much stuff I'm carrying. Normally I like to charge it after every 50 miles of use or so. The battery is heavy, and so I fixed it to the frame using hose clips instead of using the bottle case screws. This makes it much more secure than it would be. I also use a torque arm which wasn't included in the kit, shown here, to stop my forks from breaking. While this kit was cheaper than the normal e-bike, it is more basic. I have to manually select how much it will assist me, and I like to keep an eye on my motor output to make sure I don't rear it out prematurely. I use this double stand, which allows me to park the bike pretty much anywhere on level ground, although it can still fall over if I'm not careful, especially during windy days. It is much more stable than using a normal stand though. As well as being good for loading the panniers and for bicycle maintenance, it's also good for hitching the bike trailer. When I want to carry more than what my pannier bags and box can hold, I use this trailer. As well as being much cheaper than buying a cargo bike, it allows me to carry heavy loads without affecting how my bike balances. This puts less stress on the bike as well, meaning I have fewer broken spokes and fewer trips to the bike shop to get my wheels retrued. The trailer I use is the Duramax Mountie, and disclaimer, I'm not being paid to promote anything here. It's just the trailer I chose after much research because it's nice and large and it suits my needs just fine. One of the problems I had with it though is that it wasn't very visible, especially not at night time, so I had reflectors and tape to it. This is the style of tow bar that my Duramax trailer came with, and from what I've seen it's the most common type. I managed to find a spare tow bar from a different manufacturer that I could fit to the spare backup bike that I use. The trailer fits onto it, but it is very, very slightly different. Both this tow bar and the original one fit onto the rear wheels of both bikes though. The spare bike is quick release and my main bike is bolted with an axle diameter of 11mm. I hitched the trailer on level ground, and as I'm showing here it's quite easy. The strap is there in case your wheel nut comes undone and your tow bar falls off, which has almost happened to me once. I hardly notice that the trailer is there when I cycle with it, unless I'm carrying heavy loads. While the manual for the trailer says that it can carry up to 60 kilograms, I found that the actual weight limit is lower than that, especially when towing up or down steep hills. Since I live in the hilly area, I've not yet tried to tow more than around 40 kilograms, which is the weight limit for most smaller trailers, but in my opinion that's plenty for small and medium shopping trips. I reckon in flatter areas with fewer hills though, it would be a lot easier and safer to carry heavier loads than that. I also tried to place heavier objects towards the front of the trailer for more stability, and I've gone quite fast downhill with a reasonable load without the trailer fishtailing on me, but I found it best to keep my speed lower than that for safety, as it takes me a lot longer to slow down. My bike is old and has V-brakes, and these work well enough after buying decent pads for them, but I think disc brakes would work better if I had them. My local cycle trail has barriers like this one to discourage motor vehicles. Before you buy a trailer, it's worth keeping in mind where you plan to ride with it. There are parts of my local cycle trail where I can't go, and I have to take the road instead. As I'm showing here though, I still have no problems fitting through this gap with the trailer. A cargo bike probably wouldn't be able to fit through gaps like this as easily. Finally, having the trailer can make it slightly harder to find somewhere to lock the bike up safely. What I normally do is unhitch the trailer first, then lock both of that and then the bike to opposite sides of a pole or a Sheffield-style bike rack. And in conclusion, I've put quite a lot of thought into my bicycle setup, and it works quite well for me. I'm hoping that maybe my basic and relatively inexpensive way of doing stuff may help inspire others, especially if you seek alternative ways to travel during the cost of living crisis. Cycling doesn't have to be exclusively a fitness thing, and you don't need to wear lycra. Of course, it's not perfect, and nor is it for everybody. Making a bike carry more won't make it entirely replace your car, and nor will it help you if you want to go far or fast, or if you want to carry passengers. And as everybody knows, cycling is horrible to do in the rain or snow, even if you fit spike tyres for winter weather. As well as this, sometimes finding somewhere to lock the bike up safely can be an issue, especially with a trailer. The UK doesn't have great cycling infrastructure either, and sharing the road with drivers and motorcyclists can be a frustrating and sometimes dangerous experience. This is even if you know the highway code, follow the rules of the road, and are courteous like I try to be. But despite all this, I think that during dry days, cycling to replace local car journeys can work well enough, as it saves on fuel and is slightly better for the environment. Personally, while I know it's less convenient, I still find cycling fun, and it's good for my fitness. Admittedly, even though I've taken lessons in the past, I still don't yet have a driving licence, as I've not really needed one until recently, but I plan to bite the bullet and get one soon. However, the rising costs of car ownership and fuel worry me, and not using a car is a good way to keep the cost of running one down, and so I'll continue to cycle where I can. In addition, I've also heard that there may be future plans by the UK government to change how they tax car drivers, to be based on how far people travel. If such a thing comes to fruition, it seems like it would be a way to generate more revenue from electric car users in particular, as they don't pay for fuel duty. I wouldn't mind it because, sure, the government needs to make its money from somewhere, it's just that the cost of car ownership keeps rising ever higher. Travel is, in the end, something essential that everybody needs to do. I'm Edmund from Devon, and thank you very much for watching if you made it this far. Perhaps you found some of this video interesting.